Local Justice, presented by Elrod Law Firm, serving our community since 1980. Here's your host, attorney Ben Leader.
Welcome to Local Justice, where we dive into the issues and the people impacting justice here locally in York County and beyond. Today, I'm thrilled to have with us a special guest who's a civil litigator and a domestic relations attorney, but more importantly, currently serves as the executive director of Safe Passage. Safe Passage is an organization that supports victims of child abuse and domestic violence throughout our region. Adrienne Woods, we're so happy to have you with us today. Thank you for joining the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I think her work sits at the intersection of law and life-saving service, but few topics, I think, hit justice as much as what you do each and every day. And so we're honored to have you, and we're thrilled to learn a little bit more about the organization and really how the community can best support this organization that does such great work. First and foremost, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your background, where you're from, where you grew up, and kind of what led you down this journey to ultimately be where you are now.
So I actually live in Kings Mountain, North Carolina, right across the border. I grew up there, born in New Jersey, but my dad is from this area, from Gastonia, and my grandparents are actually from York County. And I feel like I'm the best of both worlds, the South and the North, where I can do bagels and lox and liver mush and grits. So it's a nice combination to have sort of those parts of my background.
Sure.
Grew up in Kings Mountain, went to high school there, went on to college in Dartmouth College in New Hampshire, came back home, worked for a little while, and then decided to go to law school. Went to UNC Chapel Hill. Graduated from there, and then really started my legal career in South Carolina, working for legal services and going from there, but seeing the intersection of litigation, domestic relations, but also advocacy. I think when I went to law school, I did not realize how much advocacy that attorneys actually do for their clients. It's not just the legal advocacy, a legal representation, but trying to find them services, trying to find, help them navigate their next step, especially when you're talking about domestic relations. And so that sort of started my journey, but really trying to figure out, how can I help people? You know, how can I use my talents, my skills to better impact, especially people who don't really have a voice, children and the most vulnerable, I think the elderly as well as the poor. So that sort of started this journey that I've been on for, I guess, now 25 years.
Well, you've got quite an impressive background. I mean, education-wise alone, those are two fantastic institutions, and I know those institutions can open so many doors to so many opportunities, and I'm sure you had a lot of options, and I don't know that I've ever met somebody that does the type of work that you do that did not feel that it was a calling, more of just happened to work out this way. At what point, either during undergrad or law school, did you realize like you're driven to this type of work and to helping those that may be most vulnerable?
Didn't realize it in undergrad at all. I had my mind set up that I wanted to do more, maybe international business. I love to travel. I think that was one of the things that Dartmouth opened up for me, was the ability to travel regardless of your socioeconomic background. And so I was able to see a little bit more of the world and experience that. And I thought, business, international business, this will put two passions together. I came home after graduating and actually had a minister who said, instead of telling God what you want to do, ask him what you should do. I'm like, that's amazing. I've never heard that before. And so I prayed about it in law school. And I'm like, nah. I actually have a twin sister who is an attorney and was in law school. Went straight through, and I thought, not me, but eventually came over to the idea and went to law school, and sort of that started that career of really looking at how can you help people. But I really think seeing my parents and my community really help one another really made an impact, because I saw it in action. You don't have to have a lot of money to be able to help someone, but you can be there for someone. And so seeing that in action really impacted my worldview. I have 4 sisters, but 2 of my sisters are all in some type of social service, I would say. One is an attorney with Pisgah Legal Services in North Carolina, where she's a poverty law attorney and who used to be a judge. And then I have a sister who is a social worker. So that, I think it's just a part of us.
That's right. It clearly runs in y'all's blood.
It runs in the blood.
That's
it runs
great.
in the blood.
Well, and I know you mentioned social services. I think you spent some time with the Department of Social Services here in South Carolina. Is that right?
I did. I've spent 10 years, I think, in total with DSS here locally in York County for 4 years, and then I left and then came back and was a regional attorney, but located here in Rock Hill.
And in hindsight, when you look back, I'm sure it looks like, all of these pieces to the puzzle kind of fit perfectly together now,
yes.
But I'm sure at the time, you didn't see it all coming together with the vision.
Did not see it coming together, but excuse me, recognizing that those pieces do fit together. Starting out at Legal Services in Greenville, working in 9 counties as a Victims of Crime Act attorney, so representing a lot of domestic violence, child abuse cases where DSS may not have been involved, and then some financial exploitation of the elderly cases, which were very unique 20 years ago. We didn't, excuse me, see it that often.
Sure.
But very unique cases. Excuse me.
No, you're fine. Well, I'd love for the viewers who don't know to just hear a little bit about, what Safe Passage is and what type of work you guys do.
Okay. Safe Passage is a nonprofit located here in Rock Hill, but we cover 4 counties in total. We provide domestic violence services in York, Lancaster, and Chester County. We provide sexual assault or sexual violence services here in York as well as in Union. And then we just provide child abuse. We're the local child advocacy center here in York County. So services, we have a wide range of services in terms of advocacy, which could include court accompaniment, assisting people with filing the order of protection paperwork, helping them create escape plans, especially if we're talking about domestic violence clients. For our sexual assault clients, we also attend court hearings with them, but also hospital accompaniments. So if someone goes into the hospital because of a sexual assault or sexual violence, they call us and we come out, we're there 24 hours. Helping clients sort of deal with maybe one of the worst days of their life and having to go through a sexual assault examination. Our Child Advocacy Center, we provide forensic interviews for children who may have been sexually assaulted or physically abused and also neglected. We provide those services so that when they're ready to go to court, they have information about what happened to this child, and it's in a neutral setting that is child-friendly, trauma-informed, and we have therapists and advocates who are trained to ask questions in a non-leading way so that children can relay what may have happened to them or what may not have happened to them. So we do provide a wide range of services. Last year, we provided over 8,000 services to individuals and, if I'm not mistaken, right about 1,500 clients.
Wow.
We provided 374 forensic examinations, and those are for the CAC where children have their allegations of abuse or neglect. So 374 of those last year alone, which is, those numbers are they're increasing every year. They're increasing every year.
There's so much to unpack with what y'all do and how y'all do it with such limited staffing and such limited resources, and we're going to dive a lot more into all of this, and we're going to take a quick break from our sponsors now, but thank you again for joining us. For those tuning in, we'll be right back with more local justice with Adrienne Woods, and thanks again for joining.
As soon as I contacted Elrod Pope, they handled everything. Without Elrod Pope's help, I'd have been paying hospital bills for years to come. Elrod Pope just took the stress and they put it on their table and took it off mine.
Coming to Elrod Pope, I didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of. It put me in a real calm state because I had someone on my side. I knew that I was in the right hands. It felt great.
Hi, I'm Ben Leader, and welcome back to Local Justice. Today we've got Adrienne Woods, the Executive Director of Safe Passage, here with us. Adrienne, thanks again for joining us today. Really excited to have you on the show and to be able to help the viewers learn a little bit more about the organization Safe Passage.
Thank you.
Want to dive into a little bit more about some of the work you do and some of the impact that the organization has on the community and maybe some of the misconceptions out there as well. I mean, the statistics you just went over with us a few minutes ago were jaw-dropping. I mean, this is one of those services that in a perfect world we wouldn't need, but sadly we do need it, and it's of critical importance. I know that you recently addressed the York County Council and shared a lot of information with them about how the organization has been working this cause for, I think, 35 years now. Can you talk about some of the growth that the organization has seen in terms of like the types of services y'all are offering and unfortunately the need to continue to be able to take on more capacity?
Absolutely. So I think one of the things that we recognized about 3 years ago was that a lot of our clients who've experienced domestic violence or even sexual violence are not able really to find housing. And we know that housing is an issue for everyone, especially the high cost of housing. It is not cheap to find even a one bedroom in York County. And so we started working on a grant to be able to address those issues, because the statistics show that for most of our domestic violence survivors, that over 94 to 99% of them experience some type of financial exploitation or abuse in that relationship, meaning they have no control over the finances, even if they have a job. And so that it's a barrier for them to leave. Because if you're thinking about, should I leave or stay? And most people will automatically say, there's no question you should leave. But the reality is, if they leave, where will they go? Would you rather be homeless? Or would you rather stay in a home where, yes, there's abuse, yes, there's control, but at least you're not living on the streets? And it becomes especially more difficult if you have children. And so we recognize that based upon those statistics and the need in our community, we started our rapid rehousing program. And we've been very fortunate to be able to get a HUD grant that helps us provide housing, financial assistance to those who need housing as a result of domestic violence or even sexual violence, and also work with United Way of York County, United Way of Lancaster County, United Way of Chester, and a couple of other programs to make sure that they're able to transition from an abusive relationship into a stable home where we help provide some financial assistance so that they can get on their feet and move forward with the goal of them being safe and stable. And so we have been very fortunate, like I said, with HUD. We currently have about 14 people in the program. We've impacted over 50 adults and children who've been in this program and who have gone on to be a little bit more self-sufficient. And we recognize that the need is even greater because our waiting list is like 30 people 30 families on the waiting list.
Wow.
But as you said, with most nonprofits, you have limited staff or capacity. So we're trying to figure out how can we hire more staff to be able to get those people off that waiting list and get them into our program. And the program not only provides the financial assistance, but also provides a therapist who works with them to work on the stability and to address the issues of trauma. We also provide them and refer them to our community partners in regards to job readiness and job skills and things of that nature, but just preparing them so that they can be self-sufficient and stable.
Right. Well, that's great work, and it's so much easier said than done to be able to get out of that type of environment and land on your feet somewhere. And
exactly.
It's amazing that y'all can help bridge that gap. And you mentioned children, I think, at one point too, and I think it's important to note it's not just females that y'all help. No. It can be males or females, yes. And there are often children involved in that process as well.
Absolutely. And last year at our big domestic violence fundraiser, It Takes a Community, we actually highlighted the fact that there are males within our program who receive services, counseling, advocacy, and who benefited from the rapid rehousing program, because there's a misconception that men cannot be physically abused or be in a domestic violence relationship, or even being who may be victims of sexual assault. But we recognize that according to the national statistics, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men will have been involved in some type of intimate partner violence during their lifetime, those are staggering. Those are staggering. And that would include stalking, domestic violence, or what we often refer to also as intimate partner violence, some type of violence, coercion, threats, things of that nature. So just recognizing that there are not a lot of places that men can go who may feel safe to come to a nonprofit or organization to get that therapy, to receive those services. So it's important, I think, for people to understand it's not just a gender issue, but we actually serve everyone.
Absolutely.
And that's our goal.
Absolutely. And I know we've talked a lot about statistics, but some of these statistics truly are staggering. And I have down that just in the past year, y'all have served more than 838 clients with domestic violence and sexual violence cases, and 568 children have been helped through the Child Advocacy Center. Are you seeing the growth in York County and the surrounding areas also lead to a growth in the need for your services?
I think so. And we're right on that border with Charlotte, so there's we see a lot of travel back and forth. But we understand that with this growth, there's a need. And there are not enough nonprofits to really meet that need, especially who specialize in victim services or survivor services. So our goal is to ensure that we're here the next 50 to 60 years to ensure that people in our community can have those services.
Absolutely. And I know that, there's a lot of talk of funding and how things work with getting the funding and being able to put it to use. Something that I don't think is talked about nearly as enough is the economic impact should that funding not exist.
Yes.
The economic impact of domestic violence in our community and what that results in terms of unpaid hospital expenses and law enforcement costs. Could you just touch a little bit on kind of the economic impact and as a whole, what type of impact y'all are able to make by doing the work you do?
And I have just a little bit of our impact, but in 2020, the Jamie Kimball Foundation for Courage did an economic impact on domestic violence, and I'm not good with numbers, hence law school, but I wanted to highlight the economic impact to York County. So the economic impact of domestic violence in terms of loss of lives, the cost is $3 million.
Wow.
Policing costs $824,000. Court costs $1 million. Incarceration costs $2 million. The loss of worker productivity costs $5,696,000. Mental health care costs over $1 million. Physical health care costs almost $4 million. So in 2020, the Jamie Kimball Foundation found that for York County alone, $19 million, almost $20 million, the cost for domestic violence, that impact. And I think when you think of those numbers, it's staggering. How much could we save, or how better off would the county and our communities be if we didn't have to deal with this crisis? Because it really is a crisis. And those numbers are staggering. You can't get around them.
Yeah, the numbers speak for themselves.
Yes.
And we're going to take another short break here shortly, but the last segment I really want to dive into what the community can do to help this problem and support you. We'll be right back with more Local Justice. Thank you again for tuning in.
As soon as I contacted Elrod Pope, they handled everything. Without Elrod Pope's help, I'd have been paying hospital bills for years to come. Elrod Pope just took the stress and they put it on their table and took it off mine.
Coming to Elrod Pope, I didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of. It put me in a real calm state because I had someone on my side. I knew that I was in the right hands. It felt great.
Welcome back to Local Justice. I'm Ben Leader with Elrod Pope, and today we're honored to have Adrienne Woods with us from Safe Passage. Adrienne, thanks so much for being here and your time and all the insight you've shared about the great work that Safe Passage does and the impact that it has on the community, both seen and unseen. And even if you're not directly impacted by domestic violence, I think the data you just shared shows the bigger picture, and that
Yes.
every capacity, every aspect of our community is impacted in some way by this.
Absolutely.
And so one of the things I want to talk about is funding and how that's been impacted with recent events, and looking ahead, what type of needs are you anticipating the organization needs, and how can the community step up to fill this gap and help support you guys?
Thank you. So I think what we've seen over the last couple of years is just a decrease in funding from the federal level. Our biggest funder is the Victim of Crimes Act, where we actually provide services to domestic violence survivors, sexual assault, as well as child abuse. And those funds really pay for staff. Our biggest asset, our most valuable asset, are our staff members. We have people who have bachelors, who have masters, who want to be in this space or who are trauma informed. And without federal funding, we would not be able to have those individuals working for us. And believe me, they could work anywhere else because they don't get paid what they could in other areas, but they're incredibly talented, they're incredibly passionate about this type of work. Without federal funding, we will have to cut staff. And we can't provide direct services to individuals. And what we've seen over the last couple of years is that decrease in federal funding, which has meant that we actually had an office in Chester. We had to close that office. More than 10 years ago, we had a shelter, emergency shelter in Lancaster, and we had to close that because of funding. And so it is important for us to ensure that we have the local funding and state support to be able to provide services to community members. I often get the question, well, why should local government or state government pay for a nonprofit? And it's not that you're paying for a nonprofit, but it's ensuring that people in your community are getting services, receiving services. So we don't charge any of our clients to come to receive therapy or advocacy, any of those things. And I've been asked, why shouldn't you make them pay? What shouldn't they have to pay for services? And our belief is they shouldn't have to pay to heal. It's well, I won't say incredible, maybe it's a little strange to me that we would require people to heal when they haven't done anything, especially children and vulnerable people. Why should we require them to heal? So for us, being able to find funding and get funding from local sources is a major issue for us. And we've been very fortunate that York County Council has been supporting us for a number of years and has increased their support as a result of loss of federal funding. And I think that continuing to work with United Way, and continuing to find different funders and foundations that will help us to continue to grow. But it's also our donors who give on a yearly basis. People don't understand that $10 could go a long way. So we recognize that for counseling, for 1 hour of counseling, typically averages between $100 and $150 an hour. So if someone donates $10 a month, then we are able to provide counseling to a family or to an individual. If you decided to give us and forego Starbucks, and I'm a Starbucks lover, like everybody else.
Me too.
But if you decide to forego one latte a month, how much could you impact a child, someone fleeing a domestic violence situation, someone who has been sexually assaulted, who needs an advocate, who needs assistance? Those little things build up and make a difference. They really make a difference.
Absolutely, and it's not lost on me that you're fighting decreasing funding every year on the federal level, but you've also got a list of 30 families that need your services, and that number's only going to be increasing.
Absolutely. And when we started the rapid rehousing program, for instance, we probably started out with 5 to 10 families, and we did not have a waiting list. But that waiting list has just increasingly grown as people recognize the need to receive services and to get out of very violent situations.
And doing more with less funding, less staffing, I mean, that is such a hard road to go down, and y'all are navigating it incredibly so far. And I think, you know, the real point here is that the local community is really what's stepping up and,
Yes.
and allowing y'all to continue to grow and continue to do the work that you do. And
Absolutely.
you know, I think there are a number of ways that our viewers out here can help, both on an individual, on a business level. I know
Yes.
one of the most joyful things our law firm has done has been able to just get out and help volunteer and help redo some of the yard work and
Absolutely.
you know, help the kids' play area, clean it up a little bit. And so there's things that, you know, just time and boots on the ground can help with. There's also donations. I know I recently saw, I think, laundry detergent or something
Yes.
like that. There was a need, and the community stepped up and, you know, delivered. And sadly, y'all are having to rely on that type of grassroots effort more and more nowadays.
Absolutely. We could not do it without the assistance of our even volunteers being able to come in, like he said, and clean up the playroom. Volunteers who come and do different things. We've had different groups come in to help our domestic violence shelter, to refresh a room so that when a family comes in, it's fresh paint, fresh linen, things of that nature to make it a little bit more home-like. So that they have safe, stable housing, emergency housing. But it really makes a difference for us. We have on our website a list, an Amazon wish list that you can go on to the wish list and purchase things for the agency that goes directly to clients. We also will publish, if people ask, we will tell them, you know, we need clothes or we need shoes, we need backpacks for children going back to school. Just a myriad of things that we look for on a really monthly basis for all of our services to ensure that clients have everything that they need. And of course, the big one is funding. You know, your donation or a donation of $10, $15, $100 goes a long way. We have several churches who will give to us, their organizations or their auxiliaries will give to us on a monthly or even yearly basis, but every little bit helps. Every little bit helps.
That's great. And you heard the website has an Amazon link that will allow
Yes.
you to see what's needed and purchase it in real time and get it sent to the
Absolutely.
right place. That's great. If anybody is interested in maybe volunteering or have their organization volunteer, where's the best place for them to start in terms of getting in touch with you guys?
They can either contact us or via our website at Safe Passage SC, so S as in South Carolina, C as in South, S as in South, C as in Carolina.org, or you can call us. We do have a local number, 803-329-3336. So you can get in contact with us those two different ways. Looking for ways to volunteer. We have a volunteer coordinator who will work with you to figure out, you know, what do you want to do and how do you want to do it? How can we best utilize your skill and your time? And so we will work with you.
That's great. And lastly, just to kind of bring it all home, you know, if somebody is watching out there that may be in danger or may know
Yes.
someone in danger, what steps would you advise for them?
If they're in danger, I would advise that they contact a program such as ours. If they're not in this county, they could go to our coalition website, the South Carolina Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault, but they could contact us. So one of the things that we recognize is that when people try to leave these abusive situations, that's often the most dangerous time. So we work with clients to ensure that they're prepared and ready to leave. And so I think that is one of the best ways that you can help someone is to give them information about a domestic violence program so that they can talk to someone who can walk them through that process.
Absolutely. Adrienne, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for your leadership at Safe Passage,
Thank
your
you.
leadership in this community. We're lucky to have you in this role and to be helping so many families in crisis like you've been able to do. Thank you for sharing a little bit more about the organization and how the community out here can help support you guys. And we hope that y'all are going to be around for another 40, 50 plus years as well, because there's certainly a need. And again, it's an honor to have you on the show. And if anybody needs to get motivated to find a way to support the community, here you have it.